Well, Razorback fans, I would say Ryan Silverfield got off to a pretty good start in his first day of recruiting. Is this the way to win the fans over quickly? Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday as we have a lot of things to get into and start talking about the Razorbacks and recruiting, because that's been a big thing that's been going on, which we'll get into a little bit, as well as the current roster for the Razorbacks and why it's all going to be interesting to see if and when Ryan Silverfield starts managing that roster currently with the Razorbacks. And then also something that Razorback fans also need to understand and to remember about the Ryan Silverfield situation and being the new head coach, where two things can be right at once. We'll get into all of that. But I wanted to start with the big day, which, you know, giving credit where credit is due. As I've always said about, you know, when Silverfield was first hired, I felt like everybody had their own opinion on it. Obviously, there was a lot of people that were extremely emotional about it, that were extremely upset. There were some that were lashing out a little bit. And I still believe that the vast majority of those who were lashing out just happened to be those who were actually lashing out towards the administration and Hunter Yurachek. At least that's what I perceived it as. And not necessarily Ryan Silverfield. But with that, as a little bit I talked about yesterday and everything, is just simply, you know, let's wait and see. We can only know what we know. I think everybody will give him a chance, and we'll see where it goes. Well, I think it's safe to say that, you know, Coach Silverfield has done a pretty good job in day one. That's right. One day. He was able to get some really nice commits from inside the state of Arkansas, which is huge. Part of the 2026 class, you had 3 players commit today. All of them bona fide 4 stars out of the state of Arkansas. You had Danny Beale, who's a defensive lineman, 6'3.5", number 1 player in the state, according to 24/7 Sports. He committed to you out of Cross County. You had Terry Hodges, who is the running back out of Bryant, who was committed to Missouri, flip and switch over to you. Again, 4-star running back, 6 foot, 180. Number 3 player in the state, according to 24/7 Sports. And then Anthony Kennedy from Little Rock Central, another defensive lineman, 6'3", 3.5 pounds, 6'3.5", 334 pounds. And also the number 4 player in the state. You were able to get him flipped from Miami, which was really big. So you got them. Now, Evan Goodwin, that was the 1, 3, and 4 players out of the state. Evan Goodwin from Bauxite, he's an offensive tackle. He's committed to SMU. He's the number 2 player in the state, bona fide 4-star. I think that there's going to be some feelings that he could end up flipping over to Arkansas as well. So be on the lookout for that. You have some other ones into the mix that, of course, are still in-state kids and seeing what they're doing. But the point is, you had a really good day in the recruiting landscape. You were able to get 3 4-star players in one day in recruiting. So this is an important thing. But let's be looking at this realistically. These 3 players that committed are not going to all 3 walk in and be the immediate big-time impacts it's going to take you from being a 5-win team to an 8-win team. Not saying that they won't have impact. Not saying they won't be playing as freshmen or anything like that. But if you just based on these 3 players alone, it's going to take a lot more. But I think it's great to send a message, and that's what it's about. You all know how big I am on that messaging. This is a good way to send a message. Not about talking, not about, you know, doing press conferences or radio interviews or whatever. It's legitimate action. You sent a message that you want to build a fence around the state, that you want to get the kids who are in the state of Arkansas to come to Arkansas. Not just random ones, but the best ones. And you did it by simply being the coach, talking to the players, recruiting them, them being excited about being Razorbacks, and convincing them that you are the man for the job and they want to play for you. It really makes you think about, what was going on behind the scenes, during this whole coaching search, and what was going to be the situation if some other coach had been hired. If it was Bobby Petrino that just stayed on, or if it was some other name, if it was Alex Golish, like what it was supposed to be in the beginning, then would these guys have come? Would they have not? Who knows? I think that if they were all the type of players, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they were all the type of players that were just really looking to be Razorbacks and wanted to be Razorbacks, but also wanted to have good reasons to be Razorbacks. And anytime you have a new coach that steps right in and believes and inspires that a little bit, this is the result. And it's important, again, because it's not about, again, just looking at it from the messaging perspective. These are guys that, hopefully they continue their career at Arkansas. Hopefully they stay at Arkansas for their entire collegiate career. I don't know. It's just hard to tell as far as the current landscape of college football and transfer portal and madness. I mean, who knows what college football and college athletics is even going to look like here in the next year and a half, 2 years even. I mean, it could all be completely different. But it's about doing the right things from the jump. And Ryan Silverfield did that. And I think he deserves a lot of credit and praise for it. It's just going to be a tough thing, which I know we'll talk about here in a little bit, as far as two things can be right at once. But to be able to just walk right in and to lay down a foundation of how you're going to do things and value the importance of keeping kids in state, as we all know, is very important to here in the state of Arkansas. That's a good start. And when you do those things, there's ways, simple things, ways that you can really try to get this fan base to come together a little bit more, at least more fans to come to your side. This is one. I think it's vastly more important on what Ryan Silverfield will do in the transfer portal whenever that gets going and starts up. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be absolute chaos. And they're still got to have players in this high school class. I mean, there's only 17 commits right now. Signing day is tomorrow. I mean, I know it's crazy to think about, but it's tomorrow. It's here. And if you're going to be a guy that's like Silverfield, and when you add into the in-state players, you got to be able to add a little bit more to it. And you go into maybe getting some other players that are in the state that have offers to other major schools. I'm not saying you got to offer just the top 15 and say, come on, but show that this is something that's important to you. Show it that it's important that you're in Arkansas. Show it's important that, because this is the type of thing that matters. We all want the best players, of course, but if some of the best players are in Arkansas, you better get them. And this is a good thing for bringing fans along and trying to get them excited about doing things the right way. I'm curious, though, of what all of this is going to look like, because let's be honest, these players committed, but they don't even know who their position coaches are going to be. Or maybe they've been told and we just don't know publicly. It's like, Danny Beale and Anthony Kennedy, two defensive linemen. Like, who's your D-line coach? Who you gonna be under? No clue. At least we don't. Terry Hodges, who's your running back coach? No clue. We'll find that out soon. But I think that that's also a very interesting little tidbit to where you got kids that are believing so much into Arkansas, into the Razorback football program, and wanting to be Hogs, and into this new hire with Ryan Silverfield, that they're willing to commit here without having any clue, or at least to our knowledge, who's going to be coaching them every single day. That says a lot. That says a lot. It's about the messaging. Is he selling these guys on messages? Is he going to sell this entire recruiting class on a message? And I think it's going to be important to see if he sells the rest of the recruiting class as well as the transfer portal on a message. Messaging is important. Now, the next step here is going to be about the next couple of days that we have until we get that press conference, which I still find it very strange. John Sumrall and Alex Golish already did their press conferences yesterday. And Arkansas, we still got 2 more days until we get a chance to hear from him. Good thing, bad thing, weird thing. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But here's where I'm going to spin it a little bit. And here's maybe why. I'm not going to try to play conspiracy theory, but here's maybe a reason why it's good that they're waiting until Thursday. Say if they would have done the press conference today and say they did it before any of these kids committed, which I know they start committing early. But let's say that all happened. Still a lot of outrage, still a lot of anger, still a lot of frustration, still a lot of everything. Probably not the warm fuzzies that are going on in the press conference and in the celebration. And it's just kind of a bummer. However, if you're continuing to here in just today and tomorrow, build upon something to where if you get, now you're already off to a great start with these in-state kids, you get that, you add some more pieces. Maybe there's some players that you really want to keep, which we'll talk about, on the roster that says, hey, they're coming back and staying in Arkansas. Maybe there's some coaches that get officially named and hired that everyone's like, whoa, wow, that's amazing. Like if you have some of that momentum and then you have the press conference and then you have the introduction, I think it's going to be a lot more exciting for fans to at least be able to base something on what he's done already, which is weird because coaches normally don't get those opportunities. Like Golish and Summerall, like it's not all like a whole lot that has happened in a mere day. But this happened in a day. And so it gives adding a little bit of extra juice, adding that little bit of extra energy for when the official ceremony takes place. And that's a good thing. I'm still going to reserve judgment on everything. And again, we'll talk about this in a bit. But you're off to a great start, Ryan Silverfield. I'm going to call it like it is. You're off to a great start. And I hope you continue on. I hope you get some more of these big-time players. High school classes have never been really strong in Arkansas's history. But we all know some of the best teams that Arkansas has ever had always came from having strong recruiting classes for sure, but strong in-state recruiting classes more than anything. But let's talk about who Silverfield may end up keeping from this Razorback roster. Does he want to keep any of them? Well, let's talk about that. Stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, we know that the holidays are always a little crazy, but they will feel a little bit easier whenever you already know the perfect gift. And Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family or friends, it's always about Omaha Steaks with their handcrafted perfection delivered right to your door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. Anytime that you've ever given an Omaha steak as a gift before, the reaction is always the same. Excitement when the box arrives and even bigger smiles when everything hits the grill. The quality is exactly what you're hoping for, and it's incredibly tender steaks, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking that much easier. Honestly, it's the type of gift that brings people together, and you don't need to guess anyone's size, which makes it a lot easier. So save on the big and unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, you can use that promo code promo code college at checkout. Promo code college, because if you do that, you get $35 off additionally. You're basically getting these things for such a stupid deal. You would be stupid not to utilize it. So go to omahasteaks.com, promo code college for $35 off. Terms apply. See site for details. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So we talked a little bit about the great recruiting start that Ryan Silverfield has. And now there's a lot more to it because we know there's going to be some recruiting, so there's some possible players here when it comes to Arkansas and who he would like to keep. I assume there's at least one player, right, on this roster he would like to keep. I want to keep whoever he wants. But it's also really complicated whenever there's the COVID year and who's still got a year of eligibility left and all that nonsense. So we're just going to have to play the game here and assume, unless we're just guaranteed know for a fact, maybe just assume some of these players will have a chance. Now, some of them are young that maybe have not had the chance to play, like a Tavion Wallace, for instance. He's a freshman, linebacker. Player I was out of Jessup, Georgia. He was a big-time 4-star player. Yeah, I mean, I'd kind of like to see him stay. Like to see where that develops. Like some of these freshmen that you were excited about, but don't know where they're going to end up. Cam Settles is another one, running back out of Little Rock. Maybe getting somebody like that. Scott Starzik, the kicker. I was under the impression he was going to be leaving. Not saying that it's for sure happening. He may end up staying. Wasn't always perfect this year, but really solid for a freshman. I'd like to see his continued development. So, yeah, the freshman like that. Antonio Jordan's another one that I think that a lot of people were excited about, didn't get to see much of. But, that would be a nice little start to that and seeing how well that plays out. So, just a few of the freshmen there of note that would stand out to me. Somebody was asking me about Quincy Rhodes. He's not coming back. He's going to the NFL. In fact, unless they just really up his NIL. Because that dude's gotten projected first, second round, maybe third round at the worst in the NFL. So, which is awesome for him. Really happy for him. I don't see him coming back. What about the Courtney Crutchfields? I think you'd like to see him back. Wyatt Simmons is another one that got a lot of playing time. Would you like to see him back? Shaq McCrory, Kobe Branham, offensive line. That's going to be interesting because it's always about who's the coach going to be. Do they retain any of the coaches, which is another concept that I'm not saying needs to happen, but could end up happening. But the biggest question, in my opinion, of course, is KJ Jackson. Taylon Green's out of eligibility. He's been your starting quarterback the past 2 seasons. And I wish nothing but the best to Taylon. I know he did not have the most ideal situation here at Arkansas, but the dude was, he's not perfect, but he did a lot better than most, especially in the SEC. And I thank him for all of that. But there was a lot of excitement and buzz surrounding KJ Jackson. He got the start against Missouri. He got some playing time this year, got some reps. Is he somebody that Ryan Silverfield would like to keep? Now, some of you are just going to be yelling at your screen, probably saying, yes, he should play. He should be the guy. He should be the one we're after. He should be the one that we're dealing with. Like that needs to happen. We want him to be our quarterback. And I totally understand that. However, I believe the coach should just have whatever quarterback or whoever quarterback he wants. If it's KJ Jackson, great. But if he says no to KJ Jackson, that's great too. You can do both. Because I don't want a coach to feel pressured or forced to have the quarterback that everybody else wants. If you don't believe me, just look at the KJ Jefferson situation when Dan Enos came in. So I would really like it if he, at least gave him a shot, talk to him. But if he's not the guy, then that's fine. Go and get your guy that you want. Because the offensive coordinator is going to be fascinating. Defensive coordinator. Like Mark Stoops. Is that someone that's even in the mix as a defensive coordinator? I think it'd be great. Doesn't look like DJ Durkin's going to be held over there at Auburn. Did a real good job over there. Why not? But again, it goes back to just wanting whoever is the players that the new coach wants, or and the staff of who the new coach wants. So there's some other names there too. Like a Marion Harris, you're going to see him back. What about some of the transfers like Cam Shanks, Ishmael Cece, who was out last year? Is he going to be back? You got to keep Maddox Lassiter. You got to do that. And Jaffard. Got a lot of playing time this year. I'm just trying to look at the players that got some playing time. Still eligible. Jalen Brown. Is he coming back? I can tell you who's not. Let's just go. Maybe we should do that like who's not. No Justice Boone. No Jordan Young. No Cam Ball. Not Raylan Sharp. No Omega Blake. No Taylon Green. No Xavier Sori. No Kanai Walker. No AJ Green. Ashton No. Devin Bale. Hey, that sucks. Devin Bale is a great punter for what it's worth. He's not coming back. Corey Robinson's not back. Keyshawn Blackstock. Nope. Fernando Carmona. Nope. Andreas Posky. Nope. Philip Lee, Shakur Smalls, Julian Neal, Trent Whalen. These are all the ones that are not coming back. The question that people will bring up was about Braylen Russell. Feel bad for him, man. It's just like there's just so much drama surrounding it. If he comes back, great, but it may just be something to where he moves on, and that's fine too. That's fine too. So we'll see. There's a lot of things to happen. But I wanted to bring all this up just so I can give everybody kind of a picture of, you get excited about the recruits for sure. You're going to get excited about transfer portal players for sure. But you still got to recruit and or at least you think you should recruit some of the players that you still have on the roster that you may want to keep. Will Silverfield talk to any of them? Will he just sit down with them? Or are we going to see a complete and total overhaul where there could be like 50 plus players that are brand spanking new? I don't really care. Whatever Silverfield wants, because he's the head coach. I want him to be set up for success. And the best way to do that is for him to have the choice in what not only the coaching staff looks like, but what the roster looks like. But the two things that can be right at once when dealing with Ryan Silverfield, we'll get to that. So stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, we know the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. And that's why the Game Time app is clutch, giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging those seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, buy tickets the moment they hit the app, all these great things. And it puts the power back in your hands. It makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout that's set up for you is so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Pick a game, tap a section, and have your ticket locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print, nothing like that. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets, every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I talked a little bit about this. I know I've been teasing it a little bit, probably annoyingly. And I'm going to try not to continue to say something like this on every podcast because I know you probably get annoyed by it, and I would too. But sometimes when there's things that's just like, when it comes to messaging, keep bringing it up. I personally always want to really hit home the important things as often as I can. Because this, to me, is a very important thing when you deal with your Razorback friends, your fans, people on social media. Because we all know that the fan base is a little bit broken right now. I had somebody say that it's not, and I'm like, it is. It is. Let's not just sit here and pretend that everything's just fine and it's just these two couple trolls on Twitter. It's not. So let's start there. Let's be real. Let's tell the truth. And how you're having to try to unite this thing. How you trying to make this thing work? Well, winning cures all, we know. Like, duh. Whoever the coach is, if they go out and they win 10 games next year, yeah, that's a really good start to unite the fan base. We all know that. But you can't get there right now. You can't just jump over to that. You have to be able to find ways the best way you can. And I think that what Silverfield has done from the jump and being able to add these in-state kids is a great start. We'll see what the rest of the weeks play out. I'll give him his dubs. But if there's anything that I'm concerned about or at least worried about, I'll talk about it. But the point is, folks, that it doesn't have to become a political game. It doesn't have to be this deal to where if you're all in on Silverfield and the direction of the football program, you're just a walking, talking propaganda machine moron. And the other side is you are anti-establishment, anti-Silverfield, anti-everything, anti-anything that he's ever done or anybody that does in the football program. And you're over here doing it, and then you're just a moron who's a hater who wants the Hogs to lose, and you're killing the program. Like, it seems like that's the type of divide that's been made. So here's what I'm going to tell you all. Two things can be right at once. It is okay to be right there in the middle ground. In fact, I would even argue it's the best place to be when it comes to currently in the situation with Razorback football. You want Hunter Yurachek gone. I get it. Totally get it. Fine. He's not going anywhere right now. He hired a coach. He's the coach. There's nothing you can do about it. So what can you do in the meantime? What can you do right now moving forward? You can be mad. You can complain. You can just hate everything. You can give up your season tickets. Hey, it's your prerogative. That's fine. But my deal is that it's okay to be curious. It's okay to look forward to. It's okay to take things in the simple individual achievements throughout this little process and get a little bit excited. Get excited about the potential. Get excited about the direction. Get excited about the change, the mystery behind it all. It's 100% okay to do that. And it's also okay at the same exact time to be concerned, to be critical, to be worried, to sit back and say, show me something, then and only then will I start to buy in. Show me something. Because honestly, any fan that feels that way where they're just still worried and concerned, you can't blame them. We're talking about over a decade of irrelevancy in football. Over a decade. There are kids that are going to the U of A that their favorite season ever as a Razorback fan growing up was literally in 2021 going to the Outback Bowl. That's what the only winning they've experienced. It's been that long. So, yeah, I think fans who are concerned and worried still are pretty justified. However, on the other side of it too, if you're one of those fans that's really excited about everything and the potential, great. Because, listen, you can't get better unless you make change. You made change, so maybe you get better. Maybe things turn up. You want to believe in it because the best way to do it is to believe in each other. But it seems like there's just been this overwhelming messaging that's been going on from whether it's media or whatnot to just be like, hey, everybody, let's just put down the swords and let's come together. Okay, I agree with the sentiment of yes, but that doesn't mean people can't be critical. That doesn't mean people can't be concerned. That doesn't mean people can't just look at this and be like, I'm not sure yet. I need more than this. We all want to be united. Duh. It makes sense that way. But you're not a bad fan if you're not immediately jumping on the bandwagon and saying, this is all going to be great. And you're not a bad fan if you're excited. Just let this play out. Take everything in its individuality. And the most important thing, all of you, and I'm talking to myself too, let go of the pride. My whole thing is I don't have to be right. I just have to be interesting. That's not about facts. I'm talking about opinions, feelings. We all don't have to be right. We all want our Hogs to win. And if they start doing good things, be excited about it. And if they're not doing bad, and if they're just doing bad things, be critical of it. Continue on that way. That's what fans do. Let go of the pride. Don't worry about being right. Worry about what transpires and base it on that reality, not about how you perceive the reality to be. That's all I'm saying. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter, John Nabors Show, for any questions, comments, concerns you may have. Keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.